Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to season 2 of She Believed. We are jumping into conversation with women who have moved me and inspired me, and I hope that they do the same for you. As I've said many times before, this is season 2. Season 1 was based on my memoir. Usually I say that to give myself a shameless plug and ask you to go back and listen to it and or download it. But this time it actually makes sense. So episode 6 of that season, it was something like Ed McMahon Will Save Me. And it really was about my growing up poor and how that money scarcity and money mindset really has moved its way into my adulthood. And I have worked on trying to be better about my money mindset, right? Like not money scarcity, but money abundance. I say that because my next guest, her name is Ixamar Palumbo, and she is the rich hermana. I mean, who doesn't want a rich hermana? I do, but I'd also like to be the rich hermana. And that's kind of what she is all about. She is the author of The Rich Hermana, a first-gen guide to money, mindset, and wealth, no matter where you started. I wanted to jump into conversation about her really so that she could fix me like my therapist. But that's not what she does, although she gives great insight on where our money mindsets come from and how to shift them so they start working in our favor. She also gives us great tips and takeaway on how to start making that money and making that money work for you. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Ixamar Palumbo. I came across your profile, I don't know, it was just on Instagram, and I was just so drawn to your story and to your experience and to what you're trying to do. This financial literacy, especially for Latinas, especially for first gen, and really, I get it and I totally feel it, but I really also feel that this is a conversation for women in general, right? We have a very specific experience being Latinas and the things that we went through with our families who came here for a better life and those kinds of things. But really, this is like I just felt like, oh, this all women could get so much out of this.
Absolutely. And I think every financial influencer that came out and during COVID times in 2020, that's when the Dunlaps of the world, everyone that just preached about the importance of financial literacy and women and how shame is such a big thing when it comes to financial education in the space. You have the Dean Ramseys of the world telling you, no, you're in debt. You shouldn't be going out and going to a restaurant. Don't even see the inside of a restaurant if you're in debt. It's such a toxic mentality that they try to instill in order for you to learn financial literacy and how to manage your budget and manage your money. But truly, you can do all that while still enjoying the little things in life that make you look forward to things and enjoy. So shame is the one thing I want to get rid of in the narrative of financial literacy, especially as women, because they always target women like, oh, you're buying another bag, you're going and being frivolous with your money again. It's like they make it seem, even in Hollywood, it's like, oh, women, they're just so flashy with their money. They don't really, it's just girl math and girl math this, and truly diminishing the fact that it's so simple to understand, but they make it seem like, learning about budgeting and actually investments is, oh, only the bros know about this. And truly it's not.
Right.
The
And I
easiest
love
way.
this too. I also love this too that you're like, I'm not like a financial guru. Like, I'm not like, looking at numbers all. I'm just like a woman who is smart and figured it out because sometimes I mean, I'm totally guilty of this, but I'm like, oh my gosh, money. I have such a complicated relationship with money that literally my brain shuts off. I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't know what to do with it. And because of the way that I was raised, extremely poor, did not have a lot of money. My mom, she meant well, but we had the fear of money running through our bones, right? And so my survival within that was I don't want to be poor, so I'm going to go and make a lot of money, but never those two things. Like I didn't learn then what do I do with the money? And then when I had the money, I was like, oh my God, I don't want the money, or I don't know what
Right.
to do with the money. And it was like literally like, I'm just going to put it under my mattress because I don't know what to do with
Yeah.
it. Right. And then other people, don't go out and try to make the money, right? They just do with they end up struggling their whole lives. They get a little bit of money and they blow it, and then they get a little bit of money and then they blow it. So people have a very complicated relationship. And would you say that it stems from what they learned at home?
A lot of it does, and I
Yeah.
talk about this in the first chapter of my book because you when you look at a book like the one that I wrote, which talks about financial literacy, you think that you're gonna go straight into the budgeting and the investing talk and everything, but I truly go into the ethos of my brand, which is what is your purpose and why do you want to make more money and why do you want to have a better relationship with your money? And it stems to our childhood and how same thing, how I was raised. I had fear of money, but I knew that I had to make more because I had to support a family. So I talk about the purpose
Mhm.
path exercise, which is an exercise that I have in my first chapter, and it allows you to kind of sit with yourself and really go into your traumas and understand that you might have a story, but that story is not going to be forever. And how are you going to change that story so that you can have that generational curse blocked out of you and start fresh for the next generations to come? And that allows you to kind of look back and be like, okay, is this a story that I want? Or is this kind of like the life that I wanna keep living, and if it's
Mhm.
not, let's write that down. There's little sections in the book where you can write down exactly what you want in life, what you've learned from it, how you looked at money, what was your first money memory as well, and do you think that molded you into the person that you are now? And if you're not happy, let's change that little by little. It doesn't have to be overnight, but you have to have grace with yourself as well because you're the only one that can do this for you. So that first
Right.
chapter is the introduction to your relationship and your healing with money. And that is something that everyone experiences, especially when they're unfamiliar on how to manage their money. You know, you have everyone telling you to invest and budget and save and save. You cannot save your way to wealth. That is a fact.
Oh.
So as
Uh,
much as we save, we can have our 12 months of emergency fund inside of a high yield savings account. You're not going into wealth. You'll get out of the bucket. Yeah, you'll get
mhm.
out of it if ever you have a car that breaks down on you or an emergency. So you don't swipe that credit card again and go back into high interest debt once again. Yes, that is your safety net, but it's not going to launch you into wealth. And that's the mentality that you have to take away when you're fearful of spending that money that you just earned and you work so hard for. It's like money's going to come and go. It's about compounding and doing things continuously. So you realize that you're working towards something, you're slowly building it, you're learning strategies for you to not be impulsive in your spending, but at the same time, healing that relationship with your money is going to allow you to not only reap the benefits of your hard earned money, but also multiply it more. So that
Uh,
first an important piece into financial literacy for my audience because my audience has probably witnessed all of this trauma from very early on of trying to learn money, having any resources growing up and learning about it, having to do it themselves, and all these other new things that we're exposed to now. Me being a millennial, you know, I grew up with the internet, but I didn't start listening to people talk about money until 2020. I was learning from
mm,
my mom as I was growing up with her because she didn't know anything as a single mom. She was figuring it out as she went. So growing up, we were very frugal. Yeah, we bought the
mhm.
generic brands like you mentioned in episode 6. Like we were
Yeah.
doing it all as well. And you know, she had a stable job, but at the same time we had to be incredibly frugal for you know, to not land in a deeper hole and she taught me some great things that I also talk about in the book about you know, Washington Mutual. Remember, WAMU had an account for kids. Back in elementary school, they all went to our school. And they introduced the WAMU accounts for the kids where you were able to put in some money. So, you know, my mom taught me put some money in there. You won't have access to that account until you're 18, but that doesn't mean that you can use it. That means that after that, you're not getting a debit card. You're getting my credit card. And if you want anything, you got to make sure that whatever you want is inside of your checking account. So all
Mm,
of this thing was like taught to me by her because she had to learn the hard way, but not everyone has that privilege. And I do say it that with great privilege comes a great responsibility to teach everyone else who didn't have that to grow up with. So
uh-huh.
I thank her today. Even though we didn't have a lot growing up, we made do with what we had. And a lot of it had to do with mindset and gratitude. That's
Yeah.
also part of
Oh.
that first chapter, like, you need to be grateful for what you have, but also that's also a fine line, especially in Latino households where they tell you, "Just be grateful for the job you have," but then they don't teach
Mhm.
you how to negotiate. So it's like, "Oh,
There's
I
so
have a
many
job."
things, there's so many layers to money and to emotions attached to money, habits,
Yeah.
mindsets, that were taught at such a young age, and for me, I found that, I just figured I didn't like being poor. If I made money, then I would be cured, let's just say,
Yeah.
and I just found that the more money I had, the more scared of it that I was, and then I think that there's another side of people who maybe just assume we're just poor. That's just the way it's going to be. People who talk about investing and saving, I can't even get to the grocery store without, seeing how much money I have in my bank account. Like
Yeah.
you're talking about investing or you're talking about, putting money in savings. I don't even have money to buy groceries. So let's talk to the people who feel like I can't even make ends meet right now. Investing, savings, I'm just gonna go ahead and pass on this conversation. Why should they stay in this conversation right now?
Truly, it comes down again to mindset and are you happy with your current situation? Because once you realize that you're the only one that can control your own future and the own narrative of your story, then that comes down to you are responsible for your own life. Nobody else is going to come save you. How can you do this in a way that while being stressed and living paycheck to paycheck, can you work towards a better life and allowing you that grace to start from zero? No matter what, it's never too late to get out of the rat race of the horrible life that you feel that you're living. Like you are deserving of good things. How can you do that? If you have someone that is earning $45,000 in a city that is incredibly expensive, which is what we see every day in Miami as well. No way to save, no way to save for retirement or build an emergency fund. What are the strategies to do? Like, I personally have told this to friends, not as a financial advisor, but as someone that can tell you,
As
okay,
their
this
hermana.
as their rich hermana. Like, I would straight up tell them, look, let's look at those subscriptions that you have. Let's look at what you're spending money on and what you're currently spending on for the month. So putting everything in paper is the first step.
Okay.
Clarity over everything. Like you can use a spreadsheet, you can use a notebook, you can use an app if that's what makes you happy and makes your life easier. Go for it. But the first step to do before you start thinking about investing or saving or getting out of the job that you hate but still giving you a paycheck is putting it down on paper. You need to know what your monthly expenses are. And a lot of people, believe it or not, do not know what their monthly expenses look like, do not know what that number is. And we're talking your rent, your bills, the light bill, the water bill, that even if it's quarterly, what does it look like on a monthly basis so that you can allocate that money and give your paycheck a job every single day. So this is called the zero-based budgeting. So every single dollar that goes in has a job. So even if you don't have time to save inside of a high yield savings account, or even if you can't invest yet, if you are getting paid a low amount and you want out of this, the first step is to have clarity and be so for real with yourself for a second and be like, okay, I am accountable for my own actions and I need to know exactly what my number looks like. And from there, we'll take it from there.
Do you
We'll
think
see
that's
where that
in
takes us.
do you think people are afraid? Do you think they're afraid of looking at that number or
Yes.
wha yeah.
Yes, I think chapter 7 or 8 talks about this, but I do talk about this part where people are afraid of looking at their mail. They have
Mhm,
mail like, they don't wanna look at their emails, their mail, any bills, like, people don't open mail for months. It is a true psychological thing, like, they're scared. They rather avoid it than to face the music, and a
mhm,
lot of our problems when we feel like we're stuck in a cycle that doesn't end stems from not facing the music, and it's easier said than done. I'm no
mhm,
psychologist, but I can tell you it's a lot of trauma that stems from that. And
mhm,
the moment that you can just sit down with yourself, and again, back to that purpose path exercise that I have in chapter 1, sitting down with yourself, analyzing your current situation, your past situation, how you grew up in poverty, or as someone that never had the luxury or privilege to learn about money, sitting down with yourself, being honest with yourself and saying, this is not the life that I want to live. Let's put it down on paper. What's my true, like, ideal situation right now? That is the inner work that we all should be doing
Mhm.
every year because we
Mhm.
are ever-changing beings and a lot can happen every year. So it's never too late to start that exercise for yourself and then being honest with how you're spending your money or allocating your budgets or what you're not doing with money, and then you're going to allow yourself to have more clarity and mental space to take on the next challenges, which is building your emergency fund so you're not constantly going to your credit card into high interest debt and swiping that card or going into paying off high interest debt. Maybe you have $20,000 in a credit card that you want to get rid of. How are you going to tackle that? What method are you going to use? Then you're able to have more clarity on what the end goal is going to be because you can't have a goal without a plan.
I mean, this is really silly, but like for people who don't feel like they're great with money, is that something
Yeah.
that we're capable of doing, even if you don't think that you're good with money?
At the very basic level, absolutely. And we have been taught for some reason that financial literacy is this unattainable thing that you need to go to school for. I need to ask a professional for it. Sure, there's going to be instances where you're going to have to consult with your CPA and you're going to have to make sure that you do things legally, especially during tax season or if you're a business owner, and try to make sure that all your ducks are in a row. But at the very basic granular level, financial literacy can be attained by anyone that is willing to learn. And that willing
Mm.
comes from being honest with yourself. That first step is actually the hardest part, then being financially literate.
The idea of being honest, I think my biggest thing is, okay, I found the honesty with myself and the issues that I have with money. It's untangling them and not defaulting back to them. How
Yeah.
do we get over that hump? That's the
Okay.
problem. Like I go straight into like poverty mode when I don't need to all the time. My poor kids are like, "Mom." And they call me grandma. They call me Nana because I'm acting like my mom, like we're on welfare and on food stamps again, and I just default back to that. How do you untangle that and unlearn that?
I think that
Therapy?
ultimately,
Try-
besides therapy, besides therapy, it would serve also as a little crutch that we all need every now and then in order to succeed at what we want to do. So with me, I was raised very frugal, and
Mhm.
that frugality is still with me, but not as intense. The reason why is that I know that money comes and goes, and I'm working towards compounding my money because I'm efficient with what I do when it comes to my financial network. So everything, I know exactly where it is, but I'm still very conservative when it comes to just simply buying. I have to think it twice before I buy
Yeah.
something. Like, I still have that, and ultimately, I don't see it as my Achilles heel. I was raised with that same mentality of like, we can't afford it, we can't get it. I never asked my mother for anything because I was the one that was working to make sure that she was okay and our family was
Mm.
okay. I knew that she was constantly working, like someone had to help her. So that mentality still stuck with me in my 20s and 30s, and I've never once like thought about like, oh, these luxury items, I'm missing out on things. But at the same time, it's helped me. So it's finding that balance where you're still grasping on the responsible nature of being raised very frugally and conservative with your money, but also learning that it's okay to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So again, therapy does help, but at the same time, like finding that kind of like way for them to dance together. Because if you
Mhm.
go to both extremes, it's never good. You don't wanna start making a lot of money and then it's gonna be gone, and then you're now back to being on welfare. You don't want to just have a taste of it and then go backwards. So, allowing yourself to grasp on certain things that you were raised with, like that frugality, but allowing yourself to grow with it. So, not hating the person that was
Mhm.
raised like honoring them and being like, "Hey, if you look at me 10 years from now, you're gonna be really proud of her." And it's
Yeah.
gonna be so honoring that little girl that really didn't have a lot and was really traumatized by the upbringing and, gifting her the chance to be happy for all of the, abundance that is happening now. It is really truly a mindset thing because if not, then what are we working for? Like, what are we working
Yeah,
towards?
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so you talk about, getting honest with yourself, and then you talk about really putting it all down on paper. How much money do I make, and what is coming in and what is going out? What do you
Yes.
do with that information once you have it?
Once you have the big picture of what your monthly expenses look like in comparison to what your income is, then you're going to allow yourself to decide how much you want to allocate to your emergency fund because we all need an emergency fund. And then we'll talk about investing, but I do believe that it can both work simultaneously. At a very minimum, $10 a week, $10 a month, whatever you feel comfortable with, and start building that. The reason why I talk so much about high yield savings accounts and saving for your emergency fund is because these accounts allow you to compound your money and
Talk
get
to
a
me about
return.
compound money. Like, when you say that's a very, like, financial word. What does that mean?
Yes, of
Compound your
course.
money.
So compounding your money basically means, let's say we're talking about your high yield savings accounts. Your high yield savings accounts is just like a regular savings accounts that Chase or Bank of America is going to offer you. The big difference between an high yield savings account and a savings account at a traditional bank is that one doesn't have the overhead of an actual brick and mortar location. And so they're going to give you a little bit more for your money. And why are they even paying you for your money? Well, because in the end, every bank is going to play with your money regardless of where it lives. And in the end, the better bank is the one that gives you a little bit more as a thank you for playing with your money. That
Mm,
money living inside of this account, if you don't touch those, let's say $100, is going to compound over time. Let's say the max right now, 4% APY, which is what the bank offers you, annual percentage yield. So this is what the bank says, all right, I'll give you 4% of those $100 that are in there. And every month you'll see a little bit more money inside of that bank because we played around with it. And that's our thank you to you. So
mhm,
these digital banks that are FDIC insured, always make sure it's FDIC insured so that you are protected up to $250,000 to a million. If ever the bank goes kaput, you're
mhm.
saved. Your money's okay. So those are like the little like basic things to know about high yield savings accounts and how they compound is basically that every month the money's still in there. All right,
Mhm.
I got to pay you back for the money still being in there.
And you can put in, like, $10 or $100. It's not something that you were like, you have to have, like, $100,000 or
No, there's
$50,000, so.
the most important thing to know is that make sure you go with a bank that has no minimums because we know Bank of
Mm,
America likes to charge a minimum and Chase as well to have your money inside of a savings account. Don't go with any bank that ever charges you a minimum. Like that's
okay.
my go-to. No minimum, no fees for transferring your money from here to there, no fees
Mhm,
on that. Like all those things are good to see in a bank account. No fees, no minimums, and no penalties for moving money around. So that's a good high yield savings and there's a bunch out there. Just make sure that the one that you choose one is FDIC insured and it's also at a reasonable high APY. The federal rates are always, dropping them as of late. So anything above 3%, 4% is good with those qualifications.
something like that is something that you can do that's small. If it's $10, like you said, whatever you feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
and then you kind of let it and then forget it, right? Because it's gonna
Yes.
be a long-term thing that where you're gonna see the benefits.
So again, this is short-term or long-term savings. Eventually, you want it to be a long-term savings that you don't touch and it's your emergency fund. Your end goal here is to have an emergency fund and a sinking fund. Let's talk about the emergency fund first because that's the most important one that I want everyone to keep in mind, especially if they have a low-paying job and they're constantly like trying to get rid of credit card debt and they see no way out of anything. Have a little buffer always. And I say $10 to start, but eventually you have to keep in mind what your end goal is. That's where knowing what your monthly expenses look like comes to play. Because then you have an idea of what your number is every month. Let's say that with all of your monthly expenses locked in, it's about $5,000, let's say. Let's say on a bigger scale, it's every month.
Mhm.
No, you spend at least $5,000 between rent, bills, etc. everything.
Okay.
5,000 is your number every month. You're gonna multiply that times 3. So now you know that in your mind, if ever you're laid off, God forbid, you need to have at least $15,000 inside of your savings account to make sure that if you'd have 0 income coming in, you're gonna be okay. And it's a lot of money. A lot of
Mhm,
people can't
mhm.
even save
They can't
$100
even
instead
yeah,
of
they
a
can't even
basic.
fathom that.
That's an insane amount of money for a lot of people, and it's true. That's why I say, like, start with a little bit and then start making it like, automating it. If you
Mhm,
know that the only thing that you can automate is $10 inside of a high yield savings account for your emergency fund, let's start there. Because at
mhm,
least you know that it's something that you can manage right now. Maybe you get a raise or you get a better job or you get a second job, and then you'll be able to put a little bit away a little bit more. But right now, it's like it's creating those habits and then habit tasking them of automate with
mhm,
automation. And the same thing with having a Roth IRA. We don't think about retirement. And then on top of that, we have to think about our parents' retirement if our parents didn't prepare. So,
mhm.
the social security check is not going to be sufficient for anyone at this point. So that's
Right.
why Roth IRAs are so important because that's your retirement. There's other ways that you can also, invest towards retirement, but that's just, something that is accessible for a lot of people that they can also just put $10 in there and then invest into an ETF or like an index fund at the basic level.
I wonder too if, like, if when we're talking about $10, like, it's almost like, "Oh, that sounds manageable." I just feel like sometimes when you think of, like, IRAs and 401ks and, high yield savings accounts and investing. I feel like I'm just thinking about my mom and I can already hear my mom saying like, "Oh, that's not for us. That's for like rich people.
Yeah.
That's for like people with money." Right? I think probably it seems unattainable. Like that's for somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and these are the same conversations I'm having with my mom because, we're thinking about everyone else in our family that doesn't have a retirement plan. So, like, how are we going to help our community in being able to understand that this doesn't have to be your life forever? Like, Social Security is not going to be enough. So, are you going to be living like this until
Mhm.
you die and then still working until you're 80 or 90? Like, how can we make our community's life and our family's life a little bit easier so that it doesn't become a burden for like the children of the family that have to take care of the
Mhm.
parents as well? It's not a rich people stuff. It's at this point safety and survival for everyone to have an emergency fund and a actual investment plan for their retirement. At this point, it's survival. Like this is not a
Mhm.
rich people conversation. This is if you don't have that, knowing how non-daunting it can be to simply understand it, it's for everyone. It's going to help you live an easier life. Even if your plan isn't to be ultra rich, and that's totally fine. Like it's about allowing yourself to not be a burden to your family members as well in the event that, you get laid off or you're 80 years old and you're still working and now you can't.
I'm just starting to think about like what society makes us think we have to have a nice car, fancy clothes, big houses, these big, huge vacations and stuff. Like that's we're sabotaging ourselves, right? By
Yeah.
like buying into that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I mean, again, it goes back to gratitude. You have a roof over your head, you're
Mm,
rich. You have food on the table, you're rich. You have a family that you can go home to, or you have your kids' events at school that you can actually attend, you're rich. Like, those are the little
mm,
things that you need to keep in mind that are way more valuable than being able to afford a luxury vehicle or a trip that you've been trying to do. Look, you can save up for those things. Sure, there is no shame in wanting those things as well, but sabotaging your current reality and your happiness because you don't have those things is ultimately your fault. And that's the inner work that we all have to do. That
yes.
gratitude portion, no one ever is going to teach it to you unless you are very, very real with yourself.
Very intentional. And I think too, as a mommy, and also healing my own childhood trauma is also not like having not come from a whole lot and then feeling like, well, then I need to give my kids so much
Oh,
more.
oh yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? Like I have to be very intentional. I mean, I'm actually pretty good at it because I'm still working through my own money trauma, but like how do I
Yeah.
teach my kids the value of a dollar? And being able to like provide for them the things that I never had, but not going to the point where I'm giving them so much that they don't understand how money works.
I love that because I'm currently in that period of time with my daughter who's now 4, who's understanding that, like, "Oh, mommy and daddy, like, you
Just
know, they got
buy me
me.
whatever I want. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
like, I want this," and us coming from families that didn't have much, my husband and I wanna give her everything. We wanna give her the world, but at the same time is a fine line between, "Oh, she's asking for things every day. How do I teach her the value of a dollar?" Again, gratitude. So we're starting to talk to her about, look, there's kids out there that don't have these things. We have to understand that, mommy and daddy work so hard for this money to be able to provide for you. Let's, work together. Let's do our homework. Let's pick up our things. Let's do a little piggy bank. Let's start counting how much money you have in the piggy bank, building a healthy relationship with money because it's
Mhm.
gonna teach her in adulthood that, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to work for my money either way, so might as well, like, learn about it at 4 if you're already asking for stuff." It's like, "Yeah, mommy and daddy's got you," but at the same time, you as a kid, knowledgeable, but your actions little by little, now that you're growing up and being more self-aware, let's work together now and become a team as a nucleus, as a family. So that's where we're at right now with a 4-year-old, involving them in your activities at home the way that my
Yeah.
mom involved me, without me wanting to, but I had to,
Right.
involving me in like, "Oh, we gotta figure out what this bill is about, and, what does this say in English? Translate it to me in Spanish." So, you know
Yes.
learning about it, but in a healthier way, though, instead of how we were raised.
Right.
So, we're all healing our inner child in this process with our kids.
I guess I just for me, I just wanna, like I'm healing myself. I don't want to, like, go to the other end of the extreme and my
Yeah,
kids don't just think that mom and dad have tons of money and they just get whatever they want, and
yeah,
because even though it was really hard, I see the value in money, in saving, in working hard for the things that I want, that I don't want my kids to think that just money just grows on trees.
right. Yes. That's why involving them in these conversations from the start, the moment that they have more awareness of, their world, is so healthy because, you're acting as a team at that point. It's like families that don't talk to each other about money don't have a good success rate in the end. They have a lot of
Mm,
stressors because they're
mhm.
not talking openly and transparently about money. Again, it's transparency and having it all laid out in front of you is the first step. Being able to know, right, the expenses for this month have been astronomical. We're going to have to cut back on Netflix or something. So, and then moving on from there.
Right, yeah, and I loved what you said at the very beginning, which is, like, enjoying the fruits of our labor. Like, I go back to my mom because I learned everything from my mom, and I still see my mom struggle, I see her struggle with money, but I see her struggle more with, like, um, the ideas of what money represents, right? She's like, "Mom,"
Yeah.
but she's like, "I can't afford it." I'm like, "Yeah, you can, mom. You're not that same person anymore."
Yeah.
But also, she's like, "I can't go on this trip or I can't buy this blouse," right? And I'm like, "You need to enjoy the money that you've worked so hard for." And so you're not trying to be a buzzkill, right? Ixamar, you're not like being like, "You know what? Everybody just stop spending their money." You want people to enjoy what they've worked so hard for.
Yes. Yes, that's ultimately the goal because we've been taught for so long by financial gurus that, again, going back to the Dave Ramseys of the world, like if you have all this debt, like forget it. You're not going to be able to see the inside of a restaurant. You're not allowed to go to Disney World. So you know what? Forget
Mhm.
about that blouse that you want. You have debt. And that shouldn't be the case. Like even if you have debt, you still need time to allocate towards your happiness. And how do you do that? Again, having the full picture in front of you and making a plan and making a plan of action and then going in and being like, all right, you know what? I do want to buy that blouse and I do
Mhm.
have debt and I've
Mhm.
budgeted for it. That's it.
Mhm. Yes, and it can be done. What is the so if somebody feels like, "No, I'm too far off, I'm too far behind," what's your advice to them?
It's never too late to start fresh and redo your
Uh-huh.
life, and as cliche as that sounds, like, I've seen people go from $30,000 in credit card debt, which is high interest debt, so, like, even if you pay off a month, forget it, the interest rate already,
Mhm.
like, knocked you off and back you go. Like, I've seen people come out of that through clarity and through being honest with themselves and actually getting the big picture, putting laying things out in front of them, and just getting that first step, which is the hardest part, which is being real with yourself and seeing exactly what your expenses look like and getting help if you need to. And if you have a really high credit card, seeing how your credit score looks, because you might just have a really good credit score and you might be able to get a balance transfer. You know, it's not the solution for everyone, but at least that's giving you 12 months or so, sometimes more, of zero interest, which sometimes that's all people need. So just
Mhm.
using free resources out there, following the rich Ramana if you want to. Shameless plug.
I wanna talk yes, no, I wanna talk about you. I do feel like what's so great about what you're building is that you're so approachable, like, an hermana, like a prima, like a friend. How did it kind of all of this how did you find yourself in this spot?
Uh, my rebrand happened December 2023. Originally, I was a food and travel lifestyle creator, and I was just doing that since 2016. And it felt good, but at the same time, I felt like my community needed a little bit more. And in seeing my own lived experience with my mom,
Mhm,
seeing her go into retirement and learning about friends now in our 30s that aren't in a financial situation that they're happy with. I always felt like that story needed to be told, but from a lens of someone that actually cared and someone that you can just hop on a phone call and be like, "Hermana, like, I need your advice." And that kind
mhm,
of just felt like my purpose. My purpose path was that one, to just reach my community in the best way that I could to the best of my ability, not as a financial
mhm,
advisor, but as a listening ear or someone that has a lived experience that is able to provide some sort of little ounce of knowledge that can help
mhm,
someone eventually. So it no longer felt like it was a one-way street towards my success. Now it felt like I was actually making a difference. And it ended up being a great leap of faith, and this
mhm.
is where I am now with a book that I never thought I was going to write in 2 years of a that was honestly more stressful than my master's degree. Like, I can tell you right now, it's probably the most I've ever, like, written and researched in my life. That is a PhD in a book.
Yes, writing a book, people don't understand, like, the amount of discipline it takes. It's so much I remember when I was writing my book, it was like I just felt like I was on a roll, like, this book was almost done, and then I look at the page count, and it's page 8. I'm like, "This I thought I was almost done. How is this only page 8?" It's and then, another year later, I'm like, "Oh my god, I got 265 pages. How did that even happen?" Right?
Yes, yes,
I
it
love
just
it, and then your book was published, and tell people about your book.
my book is The Rich Hermana, and it was published last year in October, and that was just the baby that came from that leap of faith of rebranding into from the Wander Talk to The Rich Hermana. Like, it was a leap
Uh-huh.
of faith. I had already such, like, a history with my previous persona on social media, and I was so scared of letting that girl go, but I knew that she
Yeah.
had a bigger purpose and something that was going to be more fulfilling for everyone else and not just for myself. And so the Rich Hermana was born December 2023, and April 2024, I got the email that changed my life, and it was the book deal. And at first I thought it was a spam mail, and I was like, no, this is actually a legit publishing house. What am I going to do now? And so that just and funny enough, Christina, I wanted to tell you, I was originally thinking of doing a podcast before even, like, writing a book. Originally, The Rich and
Uh,
Mana was gonna be a podcast platform, and it was gonna live on YouTube, and it was, gonna still have the social media aspect to it. And I had took 2 months trying to do 1 episode, and I was not getting it. People do not understand how hard it is to run a podcast, and I give you your flowers because truly it is such a feat. Such a feat. And I was like, "You know what? This isn't for me. Like, I don't like how I hear. Like, I'm listening to myself and I'm not listening. Like, what is this? Like, why am I talking to myself? It's such a weird thing." And then I get the email and I'm like, "This is a sign from the universe to let it go."
Let it go. Move in this direction. Yes.
Yes. And I was like, "You know what? I'll take it. I'll just move along. And maybe a podcast will eventually like form in another timeline, but right now it's, all about the book, and couldn't be happier.
Well,
And,
to be fair, you're on a podcast, so I feel like, it's all
this is
coming
so great.
together.
It truly
Yes.
is.
And it's so perfect for She Believed, because it really is about taking those moments, these whispers in our life that are like, I'm supposed to let this go. I'm supposed to move into new directions. And then believing, as crazy as that idea is, believing that you can, and then you do. I mean, that's the whole point. And so
Yeah.
you are a testament to that kind of faith and that kind of
Yes.
willingness to listen to your calling and your higher purpose. As
It's been
terrifying as that is, and then look what happens on the other end of believe. That's the magic I always love to see. So I am so grateful to you for chatting with us, for being my rich hermana, because because also I need, here's my problem, and then you give the tangible actions, right? You're not just listening. You're not like, yeah, me too. You're like, okay, here, I heard you. Now let's turn that into tangible action. And that's what I love about your book and about what you're doing, especially for our community, not just our Latina community, but also just our women community in general. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Congratulations on the podcast, Christina. Like, I'm so glad the internet brought us together, and now we're
Yay!
here.
Hey, you're still here. Man, your dedication to get to the end, that's inspiring. I'd be so grateful if you hit that follow button and share this episode. And if you really loved it, hey, leave a review, because validation is my love language. Until next time, in the immortal words of Journey, don't stop believing.